let's get into the next topic, which is going to be the Resident Evil Village demo. For those of you who don't know, on May 7th, the Resident Evil 8 or Resident Evil Village is going to be coming out on release to all consoles: PS4, PS5, Stadia, Xbox One X, Xbox One. I still have an Xbox One X, and I love using it, so I'm really excited for this game to come out. Me growing up, I never really was a fan of the Resident Evil franchise, but I kind of got reacclimated to it when I signed up for Game Pass and I tried out Resident Evil 7. Resident Evil 7 blew my socks off, and I also played Resident Evil 2, the remake, to get a taste of what the series was like before, and that was pretty phenomenal as well too. So I have no choice but to be excited for Resident Evil Village. Resident Evil Village, from the demo that I watched, because IGN put out their gameplay of the demo, it's basically continuing the story of Ethan Winters and even Chris Redfield and also Mia Winters in some extent as well. And toward one of the cutscenes that, or at least in the game preview that they show, at least that they showed in Resident Evil Showcase, was um, Ethan gets into a tussle with somebody. We don't know who, but then we see Chris Redfield, and then and Ethan says something along the lines of, "You killed Mia, now do me and finish the job." And it begs the question for me. It's like, okay, so we confirm now that we're continuing a story, which I like, because I thought Ethan was a pretty fascinating person, and the dynamic between him, Chris, and Mia in Resident Evil 7 was pretty fascinating. So I'm glad we're getting to see him kind of cope with what happened in the past and cope with what's going to happen to him in the future. It sounds like in this game that he has a daughter and she gets taken. I would have to imagine that it's the daughter of him and Mia, which, the fact that they allude to Mia in Resident Evil 8, depending on what choices you made in Resident Evil 7, it doesn't quite make sense. For the respect of out of respect for those of you who haven't played Resident Evil 7 yet, I won't say what that is, but I'm curious to see what writing they're going to have to work around with depending on what decision you made in 7 in terms of Mia. So that's going to be really fascinating as well. But with the gameplay demo, for those of you who are curious about the gameplay demo and want to see it, it is on YouTube, IGN's page. It starts off with Ethan running into this really odd old woman, and she is crazy, and she's just laughing and cackling, and he's like, well, okay. And then he's running around this village looking for people, and he's trying to get into the giant gate. He can't get in. He runs into these two people who are in the shed next to him, and then he's like, hey, don't worry, I'm not these monsters you guys have been dealing with. What's wrong? It's this woman and her father. Her father was hacked up by one of those monsters, bleeding profusely, and they need help. So what does he do? No choice, he helps them, being the good man that he is. So he brings them out of the back way through this little hut and into this house where all of their friends are hiding out, because the whole village is obviously gone to shit because all of these monsters are attacking. They keep referring to this character named Mother Miranda, who, from what I've been hearing on Game Informer's, 9'5", which, wow, that's a very powerful villain and antagonist that I'm really curious to learn more about as we play the game, which is coming out next week because I can't wait to play it. But let's see. Sorry. Anyways, so then they knock on the door, and this guy just comes out with a shotgun pointed right in their grill, like, "Hey, stop your screaming! They can hear you." And they basically beg for them to come on in. And the two citizens that Ethan's helping and the people who are hiding out in the house, they know each other. They're all when you live in the same village, you can't really help but to know everyone who lives in the village, unless your village is like 10,000 people, which in this case, I have to imagine it's like 20 or 30 at this point. So they go in and they just see all these people hiding out, and Ethan's like, this is all that's left in the whole village, and they're all like freaking out, not knowing what to do. People are dying, people are hurt. Well, in the middle of all this ruckus, the woman's father, who got hacked up by the monster who you're helping, gets it starts to transform, from the wounds. It's like the classic Resident Evil formula, right? You get bitten by the zombie, you turn into the zombie. That's kind of what's happening here, except he's going ham on these people. He grabs this scythe and just basically cuts this woman in half. He's biting off people's necks. It's quite gruesome. It's quite bloody. It's exactly what you're looking for if you're into Resident Evil, and if you like the formula of 7. They seem to be sticking with that in 8, and then it just kind of goes from there. You run away. The only survivors of that attack are you and the guy's daughter. You go up into the shed. You're trying to get out. she gets feelings for, or she tries to help her father because he's transforming between this werewolf like thing and him, and she tries to help him, and then she goes dead. And so everybody's dead basically now in the entire village but Ethan. So now Ethan's alone, and he's like, why is everybody around me just die? Why does this keep happening? And you get this moment with Ethan where it's like all this death that he's had to face in 7, all the things that he's seeing in 8, and we don't know what all that is yet, but it's like it's coming to a head for him. It's like how much more can he take? And it's a really strong moment, I think, to round off the demo in general. And I'm really interested to see what we get out of him as a character kind of going forward. So, overall impressions of things like the gameplay, what's it like compared to Resident Evil 7? What's it like compared to the rest of the franchise? Well, what's it like compared to the rest of the franchise? I'll start off there. The overall mechanics are the same. You've got these monsters who can turn regular people into them, which that's been a Resident Evil staple since the dawn of time, which they started 25 years ago, because now Capcom and Resident Evil franchise has been around for that long, which is insane to think about. But I'm really excited to see the overall gameplay adjust. So like the gameplay for me seems to be about the same as it was in 7. It's that first person camera angle. Same mechanics where you get to craft, you've got to find these objects to open up gates and whatnot. So if you have liked that particular aspect of Biohazard and even in other Resident Evil games, you'll like that in this one, I think, as well. And then also, the one thing that really stood out to me was the overall vibe of Resident Evil 8 and the environment which you're occupying. When you're exploring the village, when you get to explore an entire village, your environment's obviously going to be a lot more open. It's going to be a lot more for you to explore. There's going to be a lot more to see. There's going to be a lot more space for you to kind of move around in. For me, I'm okay with it, but the one thing that I really liked about 7 was the fact that you were pretty claustrophobic the entire game. Like, the most space you get is in the what is that? The baker's like side yard essentially is the most room you get in the entire game to move around. And it really added into the fear factor. Like, if you're a horror game fan, like, that really helps when you've got claustrophobic spaces to work with. And in Resident Evil 8, at least in the village, it seems to kind of stray a little bit away from that, but we really won't know for sure until we get to play the entire game. So I'm really curious to see how I'll feel about that additional openness throughout. And maybe the castle, because I haven't seen any gameplay from the castle yet. Maybe the castle will be claustrophobic in that respect, and it'll add to that horror element that I really, really enjoy, which dark, scary hallway, you can't really see much, and you're a first-person camera angle, so who knows, but that's just kind of my overall thought on the demo in general. Did the demo enhance my excitement for the game? I'm going to say yes, because earlier I didn't really, I thought I was going to wait until the game went on sale to buy it, which I still might, but the demo really enticed me to possibly buy it on the day it comes out and even take a vacation day to play it because it looks like a lot of fun. So, guys, if you're curious about the Resident Evil 8 Village demo, feel free to go ahead and look up all of that on YouTube. It's on IGN's game channel. So, what are your thoughts on the demo? If you've seen it already, feel free to comment down below. So, with the Resident Evil Village demo down out of the way, I'm going to give you